Welcome, sir, and happy Antarctica Day to you.
Happy Antarctic Day to everybody.
Thank you, sir.
नमस्कार
नमस्कार सर, नमस्कार विजय कुमार जी, कैसे हैं?
हाँ जी
Namaskar, sir. Yes, sir.
नमस्कार डॉक्टर थम्मन.
Thank you, sir. Happy Antarctic Day, sir.
Same to all of us.
Namaskar and happy Antarctic Day to everyone.
Hi Ajay, happy Antarctic Day to you and all others.
Good morning, Rasik Saab, and good morning, everyone. Good morning, Govana Saab.
थैंक यू वेरी मच
Hi
Good
everybody.
morning.
Morning.
Good
to
morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. So, a very good morning to one and all. Respected Dr. Rasik Ravindra, Dr. Rajkumar, Dr. Thamban, Dr. Javed Beg, Dr. Rahul Mohan, Dr. Karthikeyan, Dr. Bahugana, and so many my dear and senior Antarcticans and my friends, participants from Indian Antarctic Research Stations Bharati and Himadri, participants from GSI, participants from NCPOR, from SAC, ISRO, from various universities and organizations and institutes, from ISRS, from ISG, from IMSA, and ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to the first program of Antarctica Day celebration, which is being organized jointly by Indian Society of Remote Sensing Ahmedabad chapter, that is ISRS-AC, Indian Society of Geomatics Ahmedabad chapter, that is ISG-AC, and Indian Meteorological Society Ahmedabad chapter, IMSA. Friends, a brief agenda of this program is already displayed before you. Let me tell you the best part of this program. And that best part is we will be listening the story of India's journey in Antarctica from none other than the top Indian Antarctican, and that he is Dr. Rasik Ravindra. As a geologist and as an Antarctican, he has got a number of accomplishments in his name, which Dr. Bahugana will be telling us after a few moments. But to start with the program, I request Dr. Rajkumar, who is chairman of IMSA, to deliver his welcome remarks. So I welcome Dr. Rajkumar. Sir, please.
Good morning, Dr. Rasik Ravindra, Thamban, and many of our colleagues as from the ISRO, from other organizations. On behalf of Indian Society of Remote Sensing Ahmedabad chapter, Indian Society of Geomatics Ahmedabad chapter, and Indian Meteorological Society Ahmedabad chapter, I welcome you all for this very important lecture and very interesting lecture, I will say, because you will be hearing from none other than Dr. Rasik Ravindra, who actually has many visits to the Antarctica itself, many expeditions, and even to the South Pole also. I have his book on the South Pole itself, that very beautiful pictures where he was visiting to the South Pole. And I have many interactions with him also during when he was in NCPOR. So, sir, welcome you, and this is a great opportunity for all of us to hear from you only that what is about the Antarctica Day. And this is, as I understand, this was started, Antarctica Day was in 2010 or so, approximately. And to celebrate that treaty was signed in 1959. So, it is very important from the all over the globe, but from the Indian point of view also, as far as it started that Antarctica Center itself, so many glories we can see in his name from the Antarctica expedition, as well anyhow Arctic also he started afterwards. And many things which is very important from the climate point of view also, as all of us know. Antarctica is the Antarctic region is very important from climate point of view as well as biodiversity point of view also. So we're not taking much time. I welcome you all again and like to hear Dr. Rasik Ravindra. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rajkumar. Now, before we move ahead, let us know what is Antarctica Day, why is celebrated worldwide, what are its objectives. So let me invite Dr. B. Karthikeyan, who is chairman of ISG-AC, for putting his views about Antarctica Day. Dr. B. Karthikeyan, please.
Good morning to you all on this cool day of December 1st. Of course, I am the least qualified in this sense in terms of knowing about Antarctica. There are such stalwarts as those who have spoken so far and those who are going to speak. But whatever little I know, I'll just introduce what I understand. This is almost post its retirement age. It was on this day on 1959, as Dr. Rajkumar said, the treaty called the Antarctic Treaty was signed by 12 nations. In alphabetical order, I think Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, France, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, South Africa, United Kingdom, United States, and the United USSR, but then USSR, which is now Russia and other things. Now, these 12 nations, they brought together this treaty. Otherwise, Antarctica was an open field, and some of the well-known facts about Antarctica, which we are all aware of, is that it's the only continent without a native population. So, but however, we know that as we are now doing today, several thousands of scientists and support staff periodically inhabit Antarctica in pursuit of research. It's the coldest, windiest, and driest continent. In fact, and it's got the thickest ice layer, as we know, almost 2 kilometers thickness. Of course, these are only facts which I got from, let's say, net and otherwise from my friends like Dr. Rajak, etc. It's the, of course, got very, they say there's only one actual land insect there. It's the wingless midge. Otherwise, we know about the albatrosses and the leopard seals and the emperor penguins. Everybody thinks of penguins when they talk about Antarctica. And so they came across that they should have a treaty to especially protect whatever is below 60-degree latitude south, so that it becomes a largest protected area marine life. So in a formal sense, actually it came into force in June 23rd, early 1961, and now it has 54 parties, which includes India. And India, I think, got into it exactly in 12th September 83. So it's about 37 years, more than 37 years since it got, and it was the 15th consultative member. Of course, we know that we have our own base there. We do regular visits. Our scientists do go there. There are main points of this treaty is that supposed to protect. Otherwise, people will tend to use it for all kinds of wrong purposes. So the treaty, I'm not going to read out the treaty or something. But some of the main highlights is that it gives you scientific freedom in terms of cooperation, and not to use for nuclear or disposal of radioactive waste. So this that otherwise people tend to use it, and unwanted land they go and dump it off. That should not happen, and nobody will own a land, no ownership, and such are the main highlights of this treaty. And after this treaty, basically diverse governments and non-governmental organizations, they embrace it, so that, especially as you know, that we are the main workers in remote sensing. So they recognize the role of remote sensing. Various societies like the Indian Society of Geomatics, Indian ISRS, and the Indian Meteorological Society, they have all got together. They do this kind of celebrations in terms of popular talks and panel discussions, so that we can educate. And in one sense, this pandemic is a blessing, because normally when such talks take place, only very limited audience can come. But now with such eminent persons, stalwarts like I think Dr. Rasik Ravindra, who is, I think he's led into the South Pole itself. We'll be hearing from him much more about that. So this gives an opportunity almost for the whole of the world to listen to this and get to know about more and more about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karthikeyan. Now we know something about Antarctica Day, its importance. Now let me tell you all that there are many people from NCPOR who have gone to Antarctica so many times, and some of them are right now with us, like Dr. Javed Beg, Dr. Rahul Mohan, Dr. M. Thamban. So I take this opportunity to request Dr. M. Thamban, and who is a very senior scientist there in NCPOR. I request him to share a few words about the Indian Antarctic expedition. Dr. Thamban, please.
Good morning to all of you from NCPOR. I'm waiting for the Antarctic Day, which is celebrated, as you all know, on December 1st, to basically commemorate and celebrate the anniversary of the Antarctic Treaty System, which basically governs all matters related to the Antarctic governance. I'm asked in the last minute to just say a few words because unfortunately our director, Dr. Ravichandran, is unable to attend the meeting because of his some important other meetings. And I also feel actually that when Dr. Rasik Ravindra is going to speak on Antarctic, India and Antarctica, so there is nothing more for me to add actually, because there's no other expert in the country at the moment to talk about Antarctica than himself. Except that actually I just want to say a few things that, as many of you know that Antarctica is basically a size of nearly 4.5 times the subcontinent. And it's a land of superlatives as well as a potential natural laboratory to study the global Earth system science as well as the life in changing climate conditions. And it's also a global which is home to vast expanse of ice and which not only controls Earth's radiation balance but also is home to varied forms of life which thrives in such extreme conditions. So there is no other better place to work on understanding the Earth system processes than Antarctica. That's what we like to say that. As you all know that this year we are celebrating, India is celebrating its 40th year anniversary of its foray into Antarctica, as well as the 10th anniversary of our first expedition to the geographic South Pole, which was again led by none other than our today's chief guest, that is Dr. Rasik Ravindra. So it will be very interesting for you all to listen to him, much more details on it. And as you all know that within the last 4 decades of Indian Antarctic expeditions, we have grown leaps and bounds in terms of the scientific activities as well as logistic activities, which earlier we have been restricted to few limited areas of studies in Antarctica. Now the logistic capabilities are gone to work on 2 major stations in Antarctica, looking after varied kind of the forms of transport and varied types of logistic activities and so on. So the complexity of the expedition has changed drastically from the early days to the current time. So there's a lot of things to you would be more interesting to listen to Rasik Saab's lecture. So I would rather like to leave it at that for him to rather give more details to that than me talking about it. Also, I just want to say just a couple of things, words about the importance of the remote sensing itself, because I'm really happy to see that Indian Society for Remote Sensing is celebrating it, because remote sensing has changed the way we look at Antarctica. The way we used to look at just as a white land, now we know that actually Antarctica is no longer just a stable piece of marble, but it's a continuously dynamic environment which is constantly changing, and it's also responding to what is happening. So it's a great opportunity for all of us to again listen to Dr. Rasik Ravindra. So as Rasik Saab is known for most of our Antarcticans, I think he will be giving a light on various aspects of what we do and what makes different an Antarctican and not, and also what does it make actually that providing leadership for how it makes difference to Antarctic expeditions in per se as well as Antarctic science in general, because his varied experience from as a what you call young man who's been the early days of Antarctic expedition to a leader of Antarctic programs in the country to as well as providing the leadership to international level. So I think he has a ability to take us to much more detail that way. So I stop it here actually. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. and have a great Antarctic day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thamban. We are happy that you are there with us today. We know that you were there in the team, the only Indian expedition to South Pole. You were there with Dr. Rasik Ravindra. Thank you so much, sir. Now, before we listen to today's speaker, Dr. Rasik Ravindra, I will request Dr. Ismohan Bahuguna, who is a well-known geologist and cryosphere scientist and Group Director in Space Application Center, Ahmedabad, to provide us a brief introduction of today's speaker. Dr. Bahuguna, sir, please.
Okay, okay, Dr. Rajat. Today is Antarctic Day and the lecture is on India in Antarctica. I feel greatly honored and privileged by giving introduction of Dr. Rasik Ravindra to all the attendees in this virtual platform of meeting. Dr. Rasik Ravindra, a former Deputy Director General GSI and former Director NCPOR, at that time NCOR. Dr. Rasik Ravindra basically actually is one of the senior most person in cryospheric science in India. And he is basically doesn't need any introduction from us in this kind of meeting. But औपचारिकता के लिए हमें ये उनके एक बायो स्केच हमको आपको जरूर देना ही पड़ेगा. And he's you know, he's a very popular personality among geologists, Antarcticans, oceanographers, and many more. He has worked in various positions with Geological Survey of India for 34 years from 1971 to 2006 before taking up as director in NCPOR. He is responsible for multifarious earth science investigations in northwestern and northeastern shield of area of India, Precambrian terrain of Bhutan and East Antarctica. He was director NCPOR Goa from 2006 to 2012. During his tenure as director of National Center for Antarctic and Ocean Research, he guided and supervised many scientific programs that added to the understanding of crustal evolution of the offshore areas. He has himself participated in Indian expedition to Antarctica in 1987. He must have been there in GSI in 1987-88 for the first time and subsequently led the Antarctic expedition in 1989-91. He visited the icy continent again in 1996, 97, 2003 and 4, 2007 and 2009 in various capacities for specific assignments, contributing to different facets of Antarctic science, logistics and policy of this mission. In 2010, he led the first Indian scientific expedition to South Pole, a great achievement of Dr. Rasik Ravindra and his team. He is also credited for selecting the site of the third Indian station in Antarctica and for leading the first Indian expedition that led to the establishment of Bharati and Himadri in Antarctic and Arctic regions, respectively, under his guidance. He has been head of the Indian Delegation during multiple Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meetings. He has also headed various scientific bodies in different capacities, Chairman of the National Committee on SCAR, Chairman of the National Chapter of IODP, President of the Society of Sciences in India, Chairman of the DST Committee on Dynamics of Himalayan Glaciers, etc. He is Fellow of NIAS, IGU, IGC, GSI, and member of multiple professional societies. He is a member of the Editorial Board of multiple journals. He has received a number of awards, including National Award for Polar Sciences and Cryosphere-2013, National Mineral Award 1990, Antarctica Award from the Government of India in 2002. And today, you know, like after reading all these things, we feel that today, whatever we are doing in this polar science is the result of the hard work done by Dr. Rasik Ravindra. Dr. Rasik Ravindra was Secretary General of 36th International Geologist Congress, UN Commission on Limits of Continental Shelf, Chair Panikkar Professor, and SCAR National Committee, INSA National Committee. This is what I've read is only a brief sketch, and it doesn't represent the enormous contribution of Dr. Rasik Ravindra in the development of cryospheric science in India. I'll just quote one incident that about 5, 6, 7, maybe 6, 7 years back, we were camping in some area of Himalayan region near Batal, and there was one shop over in that area, only one tea shop, and somebody told us, the tea wala, that some other camp is also there near the glacier. I said, who are there? So we went there and just checked in the tent, and Dr. Rasik Ravindra was sitting inside in the glacier camp. Just, you know, it is only when he was professor in MOES, so after his retirement from the official duties. So that is his love for, you know, cryospheric science. Thank you very much to all the societies for giving me opportunity to speak about Dr. Rasik Ravindra.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bahugana. Now I will not take any time, and I will request Dr. Rasik Ravindra to deliver his Antarctic Day 2020 lecture. So, sir, please, you can share your presentation, sir.
Sure, Dr. Rajat. Before I start and share my screen, I must admit that I am humbled by the words expressed by all of you, and it also imposes a great responsibility on me to justify what all you people have said. I'm grateful to Dr. Rajkumar, Dr. Karthikeyan, Dr. Bahuguna, Dr. Thamban, and all others who are present here, Dr. Javed Beg, Dr. Ajay Dhar, Dr. Bhandari, and the lot of the people I have seen from Bharati Station and the leader of the Bharati Station. I feel envious of them sitting in the comforts of Bharati and being able to watch us. I also find Dr. Pradeep Malhotra, my old friends, my team members from South Pole Expedition, Dr. Thakur, so many more. So please forgive me if I'm not able to take everybody's name, but it's a very, very pleasant opportunity given to me by all these societies of remote sensing, Indian Meteorological Society and Indian Society on Geomatics. I'm grateful to all of you. I start my talk. I know there is a great responsibility because all of you, most of you have been to Antarctica. You know much more from Antarctica than me. You are updated about the Antarctic science, about what India and others are doing. I have just tried to, start my journey, not my journey, of the India's journey in Antarctica, right from 81. And after 40 years of dedicated journey to Antarctica by the Indian teams led by none other than our great institution, National Center for Antarctic and Ocean Research, now called as National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, because their area of activities, which was confined to Antarctic in early decades, has spread over to Himalaya, to Arctic, to Southern Ocean. So it is befitting that now we call it as the Polar Region Institute of India. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I take you to India's journey to Antarctica. Okay, we start with this particular slide. This is from the coastal Antarctica. And before I go to this, I must tell you a small background of India in Antarctic. Though Dr. Karthikeyan has already told you about the Indians in Antarctica and the Antarctic Treaty, but there is some background knowledge how India joined the Antarctic Treaty. I think that is a must for everybody to understand. Way back in 1950s, India was of the opinion that the Antarctic is a land for everybody. It's a human survival is there, and so it should be a land for mankind, heritage of the mankind. So this was one of the agenda item in our United Nations Assembly. And by then, the Antarctic countries, those who had been to Antarctica, the 12 countries which Dr. Karthikeyan said, they had already been to, in 1958, when the International Geophysical Year was there, they had conducted huge exploration in the expeditions to entire Antarctica, and as a result of those expeditions, they came to understand that unless all those countries come together and form some sort of an understanding, MOU or a treaty, then the research cannot be taken to a high stand. And believe me, that was a span when the Cold War era was there, and all of you know in the Cold War era how the behavior of the USSR and the American relations were so strained. So this was a pleasant breeze, when all these countries, they came together and understood that if the outcome of the International Geophysical Year have to be reaped, the benefits have to be attained, then it is better that they all come together and come to an understanding. That's how the great Antarctic Treaty was born. And since the treaty was born, and there was already an agenda item in the United Nations Security Council that Antarctica is a land for every human being. So there was some sort of a concern among these 12 countries that they must invite most of the countries to fall in the same umbrella so that they have some sort of a legitimacy. So in that case, when India had its first expedition in 1981 under Dr. Qasim, it was welcomed, with open arms from all over the world. And within 3 years, that means we had our expedition in 1981, and in 1983 we got the consultative status. That is a history. Within 2 years and 3 years, a nation getting the Antarctic status in the Antarctic Treaty, a status of the Consultative Committee, was never heard of. It has never been repeated even after that. None other country has got a history of getting the important, status of a consultative nation within a matter of 2 to 3 years. So India had that, advantage. Only because when India joined this, and I must say that was the foresight of our political leadership at that time, that if you are within a committee or within a circle, then possibly you can govern the entire activities in a much more better coordinated way. And we could see that after India joined the Antarctic Treaty, we had a number of opportunities to impress upon the international community how Antarctica should be governed, what should be the role of the scientists in Antarctica, how the tourism should be governed, and we had some important contributions, especially on the regulated tourism, and we will come to that gradually. As Dr. Rajkumar and Dr. Karthikeyan have already said, this treaty, which is hailed as one of the best treaties, because, it is one of the shortest treaty, only 14 articles, numbered as 1 to 14. You will not find any other treaty in the international history, whether you would scan the pages of the Geneva treaties or you go to any other international law in the world, and you will not find the treaty, such a small treaty, and which has withstood the test of the time for 60 years now. At present, there are 54 treaty nations who have acknowledged and who have signed the treaty as their state parties. And in spite of the fact that there are 7 countries like Australia, Chile, France, New Zealand, Norway, United Kingdom, who have some claims on the territory of the Antarctic. But fortunately, the Antarctic Treaty does not honor any of these claims. So all these claims are kept under a suspension stage. Nobody talks about these claims except when some meetings of the ATCM is there and there is some sort of a discussion between the UK and Argentina where the people have overlapping claims. So under this background, we must see that when India joined in 1983, it was 1981 and got the consultative status in 1983, we had already made some landmark achievements. That means within 1981 and 1983, what happened? When we went in 1981 under the flag of Dr. Qasim's made an epic journey to Antarctica, we landed very close to the India Bay area, which you can see on the right hand side of my slide, where the water is shown and the Paulownia is shown. There is a small mark shown as DG, which stands for Dakshin Gangotri. Now, India came very close to this area, and we pitched our tents here and created a history by, camping here for nearly 50 to 20 days. And when we did that, it was kept under a great secrecy because at that time it was not sure whether India can reach this Antarctica and how smooth the journey will be. So this entire operation was coded as Operation Gangotri. I still remember at that time it was 81 and we were in Bhutan, And suddenly, our director at that time, Padam Shri C.P. Vora, was airlifted from Bhutan, and then he was lost for about 2 to 3 months. And nobody had any news about him. We were all wondering what happened to a man who was leading an important division of Government of India in a foreign country. And then on 9th January 82, we got the news that India has landed in Antarctica under the leadership of Dr. Qasim and 2 deputy leaders, Dr. Vora and Dr. Siddiqui from NIO. So it was a thrilling news to all of us. I was in a camp in Bhutan at a height of about 15,000 feet, and I could still see the blood rising in my veins and imagining how Mr. Vora must be feeling in Antarctica, a man who has already climbed Mount Everest. So with these things, we always had that sort of a leadership of those people who sort of excited us to undertake all these activities. So this was in 82, and then subsequently Dr. V.K. Raina and Dr. Harsh Gupta, they led 2nd and 3rd expeditions. And another history was made in 3rd expedition when a Dakshin Gangotri station was created at, on the ice shelf at this spot. This was practically about 12 kilometers from the Linia, and one could take helicopter rides and reach here to the Dakshin Gangotri. And this station, Dakshin Gangotri, it was the summer station that time. It was created in less than 2 to 3 months by the army. It was totally, the labor was Indian, though the station was designed by the DRDO, and it was an indigenous Indian effort of staying in Antarctica and showing the capability of Indians that yes, we can survive. Though we are a tropical country, we come from a hot area, yet we can survive in the coldest region of the world. So that possibly, in my view, was the starting point for which we got the consultative status so early in the history of the Antarctic series. See, these are the general pictures you see from 1983 to 1990. Different phases, how Dakshin Gangotri was under construction, and by 84, how people started living in it. And by 1985, we had a full-fledged station in the Dakshin Gangotri, and we celebrated our Republic Day. And it was this period of 85 to 87 when our old and legendary people like Ajay Dhar, Dekka, and Sudhakar, so many other people, they wintered here. R.K. Singh, Jairam, Amarjit Singh Gill, so many people I can remember. At that time, there were only 2 or 3 scientists, basically from India Meteorological Department and Geological Survey of India, Indian Institute of Geomagnetism. These were the 3 organizations who used to go there and stay there for the winter time. And staying in winter in Dakshin Gangotri was really, really very, very difficult, because you had to sort of live underground. You could come outside, but then everywhere it was snow. Most of the time, your entire station was under the ice. As you can see in the bottom slides on the left-hand side, the entire station is engulfed by the snow and the ice, and only the rooftop is visible. By the time it came to 1989, even the roof was covered, and then we had to create some sort of a shaft, vertical shaft that you see in the mines to come out from the station. And you can see in February 1990, nothing is visible. While I stand on a plank, where Dakshin Gangotri is marked, the entire station lies underneath, under the foot, by 30 to 40 feet of snow. And it was at this time that I was asked to take the leadership of Maitri station and shift practically the station to Maitri. So you see, this is the area about 90 to 100 kilometers inside of Dakshin Gangotri. So Dakshin Gangotri was at the coastal site, very close to the berthing place of the ship. So once you move from the coastal areas of Antarctica to the inland, you come across ice shelf, and then sometimes you get small hillocks which are called as nunataks. Or just as you have inselbergs in the deserty terrain, you have a small hill, and all around there is snow and the ice. But we also had a small oasis, like Himachal Oasis we call it, which was around 14 kilometers in length and 3 kilometers in width, which was an ice-free area, and it was selected by the people in the second Antarctic expedition by Mr. V.K. Rana and others. And by third expedition, detailed geological mapping was already conducted in this area by Geological Survey of India and scientists from Jadavpur University. You must have heard the name of Dr. Sudipta Singh Gupta, a legendary lady scientist who was one of the first ladies, along with Dr. Pant, Aditi Pant, who visited Antarctica. Dr. Sudipta Singh Gupta's work, along with the work of her students, is very well known and very well appreciated in Shirmakar. She is an expert on the tectonics and structure, and she has got some very good publications which has earned very good name for India. Well, this Shirmakar oasis became our home, and it is still our home. And as you can see, if you go from south, from the Shirmakar, you go straightway to the South Pole. It will take about, it is roughly 2,500 kilometers. And if you see the northwards, you see towards the shelf, and ultimately you land into the sea. So this has got a very ideal situation where you are very close to the continental ice, you are very close to the shelf, though it is about 100 kilometers travel time on the icy vehicles, snow vehicles, if you want to carry your logistics to the station. Distribution of Antarctic stations world over, most of the stations, as you will see here, they are confined to the coastal margin of the Antarctica. Most of the stations, as you see, whether it is Dakshin Gangotri, Mausan, Bharati, I am going from north to east side, and then you can see Mirny, Australian Cassie, French, Dumont, Orville, New Zealand station, Scott Base, and coming to the on the western side of the Antarctic Peninsula, you have American stations, Palmer, Bellinghausen, Russian stations, and then British Halley and German Neumarkt. So this takes the entire circle. There are very few inland stations. Maitri is one of them. Sanai is another station. Vostok and the South Pole station of America is another example of the inland station. There are very, I should say, difficult situations that people face in the inland station because of the disposal of the waste. So once we have a station inland, we have different problems. When once we have a station on the coastal side, we have entirely different problems because the entire station on the coastal side gets submerged, while you can stay in an inland station much comfortably, but for the reason that disposal of waste is a big problem. This is our home in Antarctic, which has been there for nearly 40 years now, 1987 to now 2020. You can see it's still going strong. Because of the labor that the Antarctic members, those who are there, they put in to keep this station alive. You can just have a glimpse of this station and try to, absorb your memories of living in this station. I know most of you have seen this station. Now, how this station is different from the other station on the icy coastal areas, I just wanted to show you another example from the British Halley station. Now, this Halley station is one of the coastal stations. You saw it in that map. And this is the 6th generation of the Halley. The greatest point of this station is that it sits on the sledges, and once the ice covers it up to some level, the entire station, chain of these stational modules that you see here, they can just be dragged. Just like a thing moves on the skis, this entire station with multiple modules can be skied to a fresh level where there is practically no snow and ice. So this is a huge logistic problem, and the Antarctic station of us, which is in Maitri, has some better, grounds when you compare it to such stations on the ice. And this is what is inside of the Halley. You can see different levels where people can stay and do their exercises and experiments, and some of these antennas for the communication purposes. This is how Maitri has changed overall from 1987-88 when it was constructed to presently. Every year we have been adding some comforts to the station. Here you can see the water line. This is one of the lakes. We call it as Pre-Darshini Lake. In the Antarctic literature, it's called as Zub Lake. Now there's a water plant over here. We take water from here. Though the top of the lake freezes in the winter, but you still have water deep below because it is about 1.5 meters deep lake. The bottom never freezes, so you take the water from nearly 100 meter long water pipe system, and it's all heated, and then you meet the requirement of the station. This is our satellite dome for communicating with India, and these are our other facilities over here. This is how the station looked like during the time of its construction. There's a small railway line over here. It was removed in 1996, and through this railway line, most of the cargo used to be shifted from the helipads to the construction site. And this was the generator site. And now we have a separate generator site over here. We have converted this to many other utility areas. This is our present utility areas: washroom, toilets, and others, kitchen, and these are the living quarters. Mostly the living quarters are used by the winter people, those who have to live for about a year during the winters, and some of the members, they are adjusted into these cottages, and some other cottages which are not shown over here, but they are very comfortable. And mind you, these are sustaining right from 1984-85 time. So they are quite old, and they have got some heritage value. Inaccessibility of the inland station, I pointed out, and now here you can imagine, apart from this is a common scenario, whether you are in inland station or you are in a coastal station, you have to voyage to a frozen sea, the fast ice, till you reach the ice shelf. And once you reach the ice shelf and berth your ship, then for an inland station, which may be about, like for Maitri, it is about 100 kilometers from here. So all the cargo, the fuel, the medicines, the food stuff, you have to carry from this particular spot, which is called Bay, and for us we call it India Bay, from here to the inland station. Now this creates a lot of logistic effort, because during summer you can't carry over the vehicles. The terrain is not suitable for driving of the vehicles because of crevasses and fissures and all those things in the icy shelf. So we do carry some stuff by the ear, but most of the stuff is downloaded on the shelf, and then during winters it is taken by the convoys to Maitri. So this involves a lot of effort, the vehicles maintenance, because over the journey the vehicles require a lot of upkeep and all that maintenance. So it increases the work of our maintenance team. So it was way back, in 2003 and 4, the government of India decided that we must have an alternative site somewhere in the coastal areas of Antarctica for two reasons. The one reason was that the single station at Maitri could not represent the entire Antarctic continent, which was more than 12 million square kilometers in size, and in winter 24 million square kilometers, because the sea around Antarctica freezes and gets mixed with the Antarctic coastline. So for a huge continent of the size of Antarctica, if you have a single point where from you are getting the data, that might not be truly representative of this whole area. So the guideline for us was that we should scan the entire coastline and see a most favorable station where India could build its third station, because first being Dakshin Gangotri, second Maitri, and third station. So we had a long discussion with all. Professor Yuva Rao was the advisor who gave a report on the future activities of Antarctica, and he suggested a couple of sites. And in those reports, which was also contributed by M.K. Kaul of Geological Survey of India and others, we had 3 or 4 probable areas. The one was on the western side near the Weddell Sea over here. Another was very close to the Luzumho, where the Japanese stations are there. At the Enderby Land, which is again the site of one of the oldest rocks on the Earth crust. And then, of course, the Briggs Bay and the Cassie Bay area of this side. So in 2003 and 4, we took a cruise, about a month-long cruise on the coast of the Antarctica, and I had a very able team with me, comprising Dr. Malhotra, Dr. Aryadhar, and some officers from Navy, Indian Navy, and Dr. Rajan from NCPOR. And we took a voyage after the main team landed at Maitri, and when it was time for us to go, we started from Maitri and we surveyed most of this area for about 3,000 kilometers, and finally we landed over here in the Larsemann Hills, and we found that this particular site was excellent for our purposes. It had no ice shelf. The ship could go directly right up to the station, and we could avoid the using of all the vehicles for the purpose of the logistic carrying of the food stuff and other things. Apart from this, there was a scientific reason for this, because this site, Briggs Bay, has got direct link with our Mahanadi Graben of India in the East Ghat Mobile Belt. This is the area of the Larsemann Hills, you see, and these are the hills which we surveyed in great detail. There was a station in Australian station Davis, and then we had a couple of huge fjords, and we had promontories over here, and then we surveyed all these promontories by getting dropped from the helicopters to each of these areas. We surveyed for about 20 days, and finally we selected this particular promontory for our station. And when we presented this report to the Antarctic Treaty Committee, there was a lot of hue and cry that why should India have another station? Why can't you occupy one of the existing station, like they offered us Mawson of Australia, that it was already 50 years old station, and they said, well, you can take that station. And somebody said that, oh, this area gets covered by the wind, the snow and ice, and you will not be able to reach your station in many of times because the way is blocked by the icebergs. Then it was a big problem for us, and fortunately we had a ATCM meeting in Delhi in 2007. Then we captured all the satellite data, and here comes the importance of the remote sensing satellite data. Then we found out that there were several years when this area was totally free and no iceberg movement was found in between these two. Actually, this was a critical area because if an iceberg gets blocked over here, then the entry to the Bharati becomes difficult. But we could show that all the data that we had from the remote sensing satellite data, this area was practically not covered. So our proposal went through, and we could convince the committee that yes, we can go. Now, just to give you a brief view, the bird's eye view of this terrain, I'll take you on a helicopter and we will scan through this entire terrain. Just move with me, and you will find the low-lying hills without any conical hills, all the rounded hummocky hills, the beautiful snow of Antarctic, clear sky of January. It's so enchanting, so enchanting, as if you are not on Earth, you are on a different terrain on Moon or Mars or somewhere. And then this was the place of our Bharati. I was talking about the geological connection between the third site and India, and you see this is the Pitts Bay, this is the Napier complex of the Enderby land, and these are the two grabens that have direct link with our Antarctic, East Antarctic. The East Antarctic Craton and the Eastern Ghat Mobile Belt were linked in the pre-Corona times to the East Antarctic, and most of the rock types, the metamorphic rock types that we get here, they are similar to rock types what we find here. And this year, the team from the Delhi University and Geological Survey of India had planned huge traverses in this area to find out some of the links between the Pitts Bay areas, especially the rocks which are post-Cambrian rocks over here and in this Mahanadi Graben, to find out and stabilize the link between the Mahanadi Graben and the Pitts Bay. Now, these are some shots from the Larsemann Hill areas where India has its station Bharati. You can see how the nunataks and small hills are scattered. This was one of the huts left over there, and this is the promontory on which we finally had our station. Very nice site because the ship can go right up to this place, because there's no ice shelf over here. You can see there's no ice shelf, and then we could bring ship as close as to about 10 to 15 meters, depending upon the conditions over here, and then download all the cargo over here. So this was, I think, in my view, this was one of the best sites that anybody could have imagined in Antarctic. So here you can see, because this is very early in the winter, so we still have some fast ice, and we are having an icebreaker with a nuclear capability, which is we are leading our expedition ship to reach the site. And here both the ships are side by side, and you can see that ship is already anchored very close to the station, these two ships. But there was a very interesting problem, we faced, and I must congratulate Javed Beg and Rajesh Asthana of National Center for Antarctic and Ocean Research, who had a very jugadu technology, because this crane, the Mantis crane, this was weighing more than 50 tons. And it was not possible to shift this crane by helicopters because their endurability was not that much. And it was sure that if we drive this big crane on the ice, and this is a very fast ice, this will break and the entire machinery could sink. So for many days there was a tussle going on. What should we do? We had a barge, we had many other options, but none of the options worked. Even one of the barge of the Russian ship, it collapsed, and it could not take up this particular machine. Then came the idea that we had some sleepers, and to distribute the load of the crane machine onto the these planks, wooden planks, we created some sort of a railway line, spread these planks. You can see the planks, and created a small passage, and then drove the crane on these, and we could take this crane right up to the station over here. When this operation was going on, there were the surrounding station. There is a Zhongshan station of China. There's a Progress station of Russia. All those people, they were watching the Indian attempt led by Dr. Rajesh Asthana. That moment this will go down, they will take the video shot. But fortunately, we could show them that the Jugaad technology of India is proven. So this was driven very nicely, and it parked over here. And then this crane, it proved really, really helpful for lifting all the small blocks till we got the complete station constructed over here. You can see, and it was really a dream for India to have a world-class station, and still it is living up to that dream. This is one of the best stations which has got the German technology, and inside you will certainly not feel that you are in Antarctic. All the modern amenities are there. We compare this station and the Maitri station, the scenario in India where you are living in a five-star station, five-star hotel, and you are living in a typical Indian house, Maitri, we say that those who have stayed in Maitri, they say it is a station with soul. Every city, every house has got a soul, has got a positive energy. We feel that Maitri has got that positive energy of hundreds of people, those who have given their blood and sweat to that particular station. And Bharati, because it's a young station, it's still coming up, it has got still some more years to get into that effect of the soul. But I must say Bharati is one of the best stations that is there in the entire world at present time. Now coming to the South Pole, way back this particular attempt was made by India in the 4th expedition. That was in I think it was 84 or 86. This attempt was made, but we could not go past mountains because at that time these vehicles were not having that sort of the technology, and possibly we were not also having the know-how. So we had to wait for all these years, and then a turning point came in the month of in the year 2007 and 8, and we were there in Maitri, and Dr. Shailesh Naik, the then Secretary to the Government of India, was there, and most of you must be knowing him. And he saw some of these vehicles which are called Arctic trucks, and we convinced him, sir, that if we have such vehicles, which you can see on the second slide over here, possibly we could go to the Arctic, we could go to the South Pole. And he laughed and he said, okay, if you are confident, go ahead. And then our planning for the South Pole started. It was just about a couple of months, and we had a very talented logistic personnel with us, Dr. Beg. The logistic arrangements, the logistic planning was entrusted to him. Dr. Thamban took over the job of scientific equipment. Ajay Das took up the job of the geophysical equipments. We also zeroed in the medical help through Dr. Malhotra, who is a medical doctor, and he had been in Maitri as a expedition leader plus as a medical doctor. And then we had a geologist who was, expert in the GPR, ground penetrating radar, and we had to take him because there are a lot of crevasses en route, and then we also wanted to do some experiments en route. So practically our, the contingent was limited because we could not take many people. We had only 4 vehicles, and more than 2 people could not be accommodated in each vehicle. And we had to have one glaciologist, geologist, logistic person, vehicle mechanics, vehicle repair people. So we also had 2 people from Maitri station, those who were expert in maintaining the vehicles. So in total, we took about 8 people with us, and we started from Maitri on 22nd of November. So this is practically the 10th year of our celebrating the Antarctic South Pole, epic journey. So the entire station was there to see us, and then we started our journey in all these vehicles. And mind you, this was done within the budget of the Antarctic expeditions. We didn't ask for a single penny extra from Government of India because it would have, had to go to the planning commission and all that. So within the approved budget of the Antarctic expeditions, we took this expedition. And our planning was done so meticulously. I must thank again my team members who interacted with the LCI, the logistic company which supplies fuel to the South Pole Station, that in case any emergency happens, then they must evacuate us alive or dead. And they had one condition that, okay, we will provide you the logistic help provided you help us in decanting the fuel. So that would have saved their labor, and we said, okay, we help them in decanting from their these chartered planes, some of the fuel barrels, and in turn, they provided us some sort of a cover that in case something happens, we were sure that they will take care of us. So this was about a 9 to 10 days journey, the most memorable journey that I can think of, where we hardly slept. Most of the time we were in vehicles driving, and since it was the period when there was no night, we practically lost the count of day and night. We never knew whether it is a day or it is a night. Whenever we were tired, we stopped, ate our food, which was already pre-cooked, pizza or things like that, you know, and then pre-cooked it, heated it, and gulped it. And our sleep was restrained to more or less 3 or 4 hours, and then we could start again. So this here you can see the faces of some of the people. I have captured only few. Murthy, who was our vehicle expert, Dr. Javed Beg, it's me, and Dr. Thamban. It's not only the man that take the pressure of the terrain, it's also the vehicles, you know. Most of the time the vehicles suffered more than the men. You can see over here the conditions of the vehicles. The tires getting off from the vehicle, the axle, the breaking of the axles, and in between, you know, because you can't carry the fuel with you, you have to bank upon the fuel which was left by some of the people over here and buried. So you have to take up these buried barrels, remove the ice or snow on top of them, then decant them and take fuel for your station, for your journey, for your convoy. And you mind you, this was the terrain, you know, where one of the planes had crashed. And then when the rescue operations were being done about some years back, then they had to bring a lot of barrels, and they had left these barrels over here. And there were some poles signifying the location of these barrels. So with the due permission of the ASCI, we took the fuel from these. That saved us from taking extra fuel on our route. And this was the journey, end of the journey, when we reached South Pole, geographic South Pole, hosted the Indian flag. And there's a celebrated dome over here. Took a lot of photographs. And then, you know, we circled this dome. And then we could proudly say that we have encircled the earth. Because that is a point when you encircle it like Lord Ganesha encircling his father, Lord Shiva, and saying that, well, I have covered the entire universe. So it was something like that, covering this point and then saying that, okay, we have gone around the world in a couple of seconds. Well, on our return, we were rewarded by an audience by the Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister, and we had a small audience with him. He appreciated our journey and he complimented us, and he also assured us that what all help is required for the Antarctic expedition, it will be around. Now, with that background, I think the time is right for shifting to some of the science, because most of you are scientists. I need not go into all those details. You know much more in your own fields. So it will be just, you know, showing lamp to the people or to the sun. I will just give a brief account of what we do in Antarctica, whether it is earth sciences, where we do geology, geophysics, geomorphology, paleoclimate, glaciological studies. Atmospheric science has got a very big field in Antarctica, biological fields, biodiversity, then physiology and psychology, wildlife, cold region engineering, remote sensing, communication. All these fields, you know, they encompass the different facets of the disciplines that we try to cover in Antarctic. And as you will appreciate that no single organizations can do everything. With the results, INCPOR draws people from all over India, from the labs, from the DRDO labs, from the CSIR labs, from the surveys, whether it is Geological Survey, Botanical Survey, or even the other geological surveys, the Wildlife Institute of India, Bharati Institute of Himalayan Geology, Jadavpur University, the IITs, Delhi IIT has been there many times. Then your Kanpur IIT has been there. So Delhi University is there. You name the leading university or leading institution, and you will find that some of the people from those institutions have participated in this the national and DOE. Even the doctors from All India Institute of Medical Sciences have participated. Doctors from Armed Forces Medical Corps have participated. In about 16th or 17th expedition, Indian Air Force and Indian Navy used to participate in the expeditions, providing us the logistic support for the year by supplying us the Mi-8 helicopters and JSEC helicopters. But subsequently, it was felt that the normal planes, planes from the professional bodies, they will be much cheaper because they take lesser people. Only 3 to 4 people per plane could solve the problem. So, and gradually as the time passed, our requirement also changed. The maintenance of the stations was not that acute, so we could do with our own logistic personnel, and we could tender the air support from international field. Sorry, so we could get the best in the areas, those who are available and those who are doing this sort of a service to the entire international stations. So that's how we shifted from the typical armed forces based support system to the international and the professional support system on the payment basis. Coming to the geological studies, right from the second expedition onwards, because first was more or less a reconnaissance expedition, second expedition onwards until date, GSI, Geological Survey of India, mostly was responsible for the systematic geological mapping, and till date, if you see the Antarctic map, from 3 degrees east longitude to about 15 degrees east longitude is a huge area. They have covered the entire terrain on 1:50,000 scale geological mapping, and the area is about 20,000 square kilometers, including that some of the thematic mapping where this particular area is selected and a theme-based study is done. For that, we had Water Institute of Himalayan Geology. We also had Atomic Minerals Division. We had Jadavpur University specializing on the structure and tectonics. We had special people from Kharagpur, scientists like Lavikant and others, and Dr. Gulani, who worked on the metamorphic variations within the rocks of the Shimakar. So practically every facet of geology that could be thought of was covered during all these years, and a series of maps, geological maps, have been published and have been circulated. You can see the terrain over here. Now this is the extreme mountains of Gruber, and gradually we have shifted from Gruber to Petermann. These are all the names of the mountains: Petermann to Humboldt, then to Orvin, then to Mulling-Hoffman, and we have practically stopped very close to the junction of these areas where there's a stark, juxtaposition of Mulling-Hoffman and the Western Antarctic rock types. They come in juxtaposition of each other. At the bottom, there are just few names who have compiled or who have worked in detail, but there are several others, and it is not possible to tell you the work of all those people who have done excellent job in bringing us the knowledge, geological knowledge of this area. This was about the Shimachar, which was our seat of expedition for most of the years. 2006 onwards, we also started working on the Larsemann Hill area, which was our site of the new expedition. And you can see there are 3 basic areas: Pittsburgh area over here, Wilkes Land over here, and Princess Elizabeth Land, which had the Enderby land over here. And this area was not studied by the Indian geologists so long, and after 2006, great attention was paid to this area, and within a short span of about 10 years or 12 years, considerable literature has been generated, and this study has also helped us to understand the Greenlandian movement and the Pan-African tectonic event in a much more better coordinated way, and to also understand how the Pitts Bay can be, correlated to the rock types of our Eastern Ghat mobile belt. We also had a IODP expeditions, International Ocean Drilling Program, and there was an expedition in which scientists from India participated, and basically the scientists from Delhi University and the Geological Survey of India, and a considerable good job was done, and a paper in the Nature has subsequently come, which has shown us that the marine sediments which have contributed to the marine sediments over here, their prominence can be traced to the hinterland of Antarctica as back as Transantarctic Mountains, which is far away. The third area was Princess Elizabeth Land, which is located somewhere here exactly. And this is the seat of the most ancient rocks of the world also, 3,000 million years and others. Napier Complex and Raynaud Complex, the two geological complexes are hosted over here. And this year there's a plan of these scientists of GSI and Delhi University people to work in detail on these areas and to sort of collect the samples and find out the details of metamorphic variations and metamorphic history of the rock types, so that a better coordination and correlation of these can be done with the rocks of the Eastern Ghat mobile belt. This is, in short, this is a contribution of our recent work, basically led by Pant and Dr. Naresh Chand Pant of Delhi University, which he said that the East African orogen is believed to be a suture between the East and the West Gondwana land, and this was a concept which has found ground recently in much better coordinated way. We have several people have worked, including Dr. Ravikant, Dr. Roy from GSI, Dr. Pant's students, and Pant himself. And they have based their studies on the electron microprobe dating of the monazite grains, and it has been opined that the metamorphic neocrystallization began sometimes during the period of 640 to 650 million years back, and it continued up to 580 million years. And this age span of 500 to 600 million years was a span which was widespread, known for magmatic activity in the central Downing Moundland area. Geophysical studies also were started right from the first expeditions. In fact, from third expedition, which was headed by Dr. Harsh Gupta. He himself being a geophysicist, and he saw that a very well coordinated geophysical program was launched in Antarctic. Basically, at that time in Schumacher, we had deep seismic profiles between Schumacher and the Wolfrat Mountains. We had gravity and magnetic surveys. We had sustained GPS studies, geomagnetism, to find out the movement of the Antarctic plate, and other GPS surveys also. The Moho thickness was calculated, and it was found that in the Wolfrat Mountains, especially in the Humboldt Mountains, which is part of the Wolfrat Mountain, it was at 38 kilometers, whereas in the Schumacher, it was at 32 kilometers under the solid exposed rocks. About the movement of the Antarctic plate, it was found, that it's not a uniform movement, that is, the entire Antarctic plate is moving in one direction at the same rate. It was a differential rate, and the plate was seen to move at less than about 4 millimeters per year in the eastern part, and about 20 millimeters per year in the western part, that is the Western Antarctica. The average, the Maitri station movement, if you see, for calculation or just for imagining what the movement was, it was 8 plus minus 1 millimeter per year towards north. Because we have a velocity measurement station at Maitri, and so continuous recording was done by NGRI, National Geophysical Research Institute, and this was a paper which was published for that. Another institute, which had a very sustained work in Antarctica is Indian Institute of Geomagnetism, and several of the scientists have worked from IIG, and most of the time they have also been leaders of our station. Dr. Jiva is here in that meeting, I can see, and Dr. Ajay is of course here. Study of the geomagnetic processes and monitoring of the round-the-year magnetic flux in the outer core of the Maitri station, Earth at Maitri station was the main thing, and these studies are continuing from 1986-87 onwards. It's ongoing studies which are, you can find out both the records in digital way and in other way is there. And the 3-station magnetometer network was also established, but it was a periodic way, and from 96-97 at different periods we have got this value. A radiometer was established sometimes afterwards, to record the radio signal strength of the cosmic radio noise, and this is being done still. And we have 3 decades of experimental geomagnetic data, which has revealed the importance of Maitri as the ideally suitable for now casting geospatial weather, and the interplanetary weather studies. This is a very important finding of the IIG, and I'll read this para for the benefit of all. Intermittent recording of the absolute values of the total magnetic field by a proton precision magnetometer and the comparison of the results of the data of ppm and the flux rate magnetometer have shown a rapidly declining magnetic field over past 75 years at METRI and on the other hemispheric studies. This was a very important study which was published by Pathan and others, which brought India to limelight, and people started finding out why this sort of declining magnetic field is taking place. In addition to that, we had the cosmic noise absorption. It is being measured by the rheometer, and publications have started coming up after 2017. Coordinated effort on the knowing the ice dynamics part was also started in 2003 and 4 by the scientists of IIG and GSI, and also I think NCPOR, wherein they had several campaigns of GPS on this particular area between the Shimakar and the Vosat mountains. You can see Shimakar oasis here in the northwestern part over here, and the Vosat range over here. This is the Humboldt mountain, and these are the Petermann and the other mountains over here. And finally, the result was that there's some sort of a movement, bidirectional movement, which is taking place because of the obstacle that is being created by the oasis of Shimakar. And this the range is between 1.89 to 10.88 meters per annum. That is the speed that is with which the ice sheet is moving on two directions and encircling the Shimakar oasis. Changing ice mass and climate studies has been the major focus of Antarctic expeditions, right from the IPCC reports figured out that Antarctica is the barometer of the changing ice patterns. And since this ice is more than 34 million years old in Antarctic, it's a heritage ice that is some sort of a thing that should be preserved. But unfortunately, we cannot preserve this because of the growing global warming effect. Antarctic Peninsula and the Western Antarctic, they are showing alarming mass loss of the ice as compared to East Antarctic. But recent studies which are published in Nature have also shown that East Antarctic also is suffering from a great loss of the Antarctic ice. And from the period 1992 and 2017, a huge amount of 2,720 plus minus 1,319 billion tons of ice have been lost between these 15 years in Antarctic. And this correlates or corresponds to 7.6 plus minus 4 millimeters rise in the sea level. As most of you must be knowing that it has been calculated that in case the entire ice sheet of Antarctica melts, along with the Greenland ice and the other ice masses of the continental glaciers, the entire sea level could rise more than 60 meters, and that would be some sort of a greatest calamity. But of course, that is not going to take place in our lifetime. It is a natural process of the Earth which is going to take centuries together. Ice-ocean atmosphere interaction is another field which is there, and I have already told you that Antarctic ice has been around with us. It has been giving us company for 34 million years, and so it has got a heritage status. The climate models are trying to simulate the physical processes and the interaction that takes place between ice, ocean, and land. But there are several, uncertainties which have been pointed out by none other than Rignot in his paper, which was published in Nature, and we are still not able to judge those uncertainties because what are the hot and the warm ocean currents, how they are affecting the underbellies of the glaciers or of the ice shelf, it is not known precisely. Just to attack that particular problem, we had a collaboration and cooperation with the Norwegians under a Mad Ice project, and that was NCPOR and Indo-Norwegian project. The Norwegian Institute of Polar Science and Research and the NCPOR, they joined their hands to work on most of the grounded icebergs, and they had a long, I think 3 years program, to do the GPR surveys, map all the grounded icebergs, and to study and do some drilling also, and to study how the underbellies of these grounded icebergs are behaving. And the results, I think, will be published very shortly. And Dr. Thamban was one of the lead scientists in this particular project. Ice core drilling is one of the program which attains very great significance because most of the past climate, paleoclimate of Antarctic is learned or peep into the Antarctic climate is got only from these ice cores, and this is the process of ice coring which was adopted by India. You see, in most of the international spheres, the ice coring is done during winters and under a covered sort of a dome. They create a tent or they create a small temporary dome, and then the coring is done. But we tried the shallow ice coring up to about 100 meters, even in the summer, because carrying of all these things during winter, it increases the logistic load and all that. So here you can see it's under the open sky, the drilling is being done, and I must point to you that at times it is more than 25 to 30 degrees minus temperatures, and with any wind of even 10 nautical miles, the wind chill effect felt on the body of the people is great. It will touch as if it is minus 50 degrees Celsius. So under those trying conditions, and sometimes taking the shelter of a container from the wind side, so that they have a wind shelter, and then they do the drilling over here. Ultimately, the core is taken to the laboratories, and this is the ice core laboratory of NCPOR, where it's being studied. Now, this is one of the results of the studies from the ice core. At that time, the shallow ice cores were retrieved, but it could ascertain that yes, the global climatic temperatures are rising, as you can see from this trend, and they had correlated it with the SAM index and also with the temperatures that were available at the NOVO, the real ground temperatures which were taken from the NOVO, and seeing the ice core temperatures which was taken up from the oxygen isotope ratio over here. This again is a work published by Dr. Naik and others of Thambun's group. The remote sensing unit of NCOR and the remote sensing institute of India, Dehradun, they have been monitoring this Lambert glacier, and see it is one of the fastest moving glacier of the world. And you see how these glaciers are, and these are the speeds shown in the different colors. It's moving, and as everybody knows, the movement in the central part will be more as compared to the peripheries, and at the end, again, the movement will be very fast. And this glacier will keep on, giving a lot of sediments which are capped in its underbelly as marine sediments, and those sediments, some of these sediments have been drilled in the IODP sites of Australia, and they have got very exciting results of even the great percentage of hydrocarbon and others. GSI has also been monitoring the tongue of a glacier. It is called as Dakshin Gangotri Glacier, DG Glacier. This is located over here, where the glacier comes and it more or less drops onto the Schumacher oasis, and then ultimately it gives a lot of proglacial lakes, and this water from the proglacial lakes goes to the shelf area. So this is the glacier, you see, the Dakshin Gangotri Glacier, and it is debouching onto the rocks and then to the shelf. And this particular portion has been retreating very fast. Over the last 20 years, where the observations have been taken, it has been calculated that the ice tip of the snout of the glacier has retreated more than 16 meters in two decades. And this is a depiction of how the surface layer of the Antarctic it changes during summer and winter. Now, this is the original layer, ice floor layer. During winters, it shoots up to more than 50 centimeters or so, but during subsequent summer, the ablation takes place, and this column of about 25 to 30 centimeters of the snow again gets ablated. It is removed, and ultimately you have a proper addition of the snow and the ice to the Antarctic a surface of about 20 to 25 centimeters. But you see, if you the normal question will be that in case every year 25 to 30 centimeters of the ice is getting accumulated, then the Antarctic should have reached a great height. What also happens that under the ice sheet, a lot of caving is taking place, and the hot currents of the warm ocean, they also have their own interplay, wherein they take out the underbellies of these ice sheets and then maintain some sort of equilibrium between the rising ice surface and the lowering of the ice surface. Geomorphology has been given a lot of attention in Schumacher and also recently in our areas of Larsemann Hills. And here you can see the different domains, physiographic units. This is ice-free areas mostly. These are the lakes. There are more than 100 lakes in Schumacher. These are the vertical cliffs, which is in the northern escarpment. And these appear to be tilted. So one can easily imagine that this particular area, because of the isostatic rebound, when this was freed from the ice, and the tilting has taken place in the northern side, so that we have some sort of a asymmetric physiographic which we can see over in these areas, and these are the various physiographic units which have been identified. Giving you some glimpses of the geomorphy. This is the ice-free area of Shimakar, and you can see the multiple lakes, more than 100 lakes in Shimakar. And there are very good studies which people have undertaken on these lakes, numbered these lakes systematically into the proglacial lakes, landlocked lakes, and epichelf lakes. And most of these lakes have been drilled for the sediments, and the paleoclimate has been inferred from those sediments. This is how the interior of the Antarctic looks. There we still have alpine topography visible, you can see. And then the movement of the glaciers, the recession of the glaciers has left a lot of erratic boulders on top of the mountains over here. You can see the grooves, which are clear-cut signatures of the glaciers moving past this particular area. And then some pattern ground, a very frequently known feature in an area which is which is of permafrost area, where the upper layer of the permafrost keeps on setting, with the result that there is some sort of a sieving in the sediments. You see the larger boulders and pebbles on one side, and the finer sediments in the center, giving it rise to the pattern ground. Now this is the polar plateau. Once you cross the mountains, coastal mountains, you reach the end of the high rise area, and then you land into the polar plateau till you reach South Pole. You can see the contrast between the polar plateau and the polar ice. This is around 73 to 74 degrees south latitude. It's not that only geology has been done in Antarctic. We have a lot of biological studies undertaken in Antarctic, and the Cellular Center for Cellular and Microbiology, CCMB in Hyderabad, has been pioneering in that research. Recently, Agarkar Institute has joined, and Jawaharlal Nehru Institute also has joined from Pune. And most of these institutes have been working on the molecular biology and the microbes which are seen in the Antarctic soil or in the ice. And more than 30 novel microbial species have been identified, and which were not known in Antarctica previously. And most of these, the credit goes to Dr. Shivaji, who has published a very huge set of papers in this domain. There's a very interesting point on this is also there, that the Pyramidal Institute of Pharmaceutical Institute, from the entrepreneurship, they had joined one of the Antarctic expedition, and in collaboration with NCPOR, they also could take out certain microbes which they have claimed that they have some medicinal value, and they are working on that. They have also created some intellectual property right for some of those findings. And very recently, as I was told, that they are going to bring out certain medicines from these, microbic growth, which they have done under the laboratory conditions, to cure certain diseases like your hypertension and BP and things like that. Paleoclimate studies is another field where people from Birbasani Institute of Paleosciences, GSI, NCPOR, and sometimes some other universities also have been working. IIT Kanpur has worked, and Rajiv Sinha has worked, Vinita Pokhriyal has worked, Rajesh Asthana has got a lot of papers on this, and Javed Beg has also contributed. And the attempt has been to work out how the climate was in the previous, say, 50,000 years back. And initially, it was believed that the Holocene was the time when most of these areas were deglaciated, and all these areas, ice-free areas, have come up only during the Holocene, post-Holocene time. But the recent work has, informed us that, and the radiocarbon dating especially, they have gone up to 3,000 kilo years before to tell us how the climate was. And there are several phases of warm and cold phases, even wet phases, and all these phases have been properly documented, and there are a lot of publications on this. It is recommended that you go to the Vinita Pokhriyal and Srivastava and others, even Warrior and Mahesh. They have done very good compilation and original work on the paleoclimatic studies on Antarctica. So before I close, I must tell you that I have not covered the Wildlife Institute's work, because I don't have much knowledge about wildlife. And physiological work, I can tell you that there were scientists and doctors from All India Institute of Medical Sciences and also from the Defense Institute of DPAS, Defense Institute of Psychological Research, wherein they have done plenty of experiments on the people wintering in Antarctic to see the circadian, how does the sleep patterns of the people change, what is the circadian rhythm, they call it, of the heartbeats, how does it change during the period when there is a sunlight and when in the period when there is no sunlight. What is the hormonal changes that the winter members undergo? Because when there's no sunlight, definitely there is a change in the secretion of some of the hormones, with the result that people get depression, and because sunlight, is a great source of energy. And during 6 months, when the sunlight doesn't show in the station, people tend to become depressive or some sort of mental things start cropping up. So that is the task of the leader, when to keep everything together, to keep them happy, to make them talk to their parents, to their children, to see that those things do not crop up. Antarctica also has given rise to the cold weather engineering aspects, and this knowledge gained because of this has been used in Siachen, I am told, by the DRDO. So ultimately, what all we do in Antarctic has got some useful benefit for the society, and we are reaping those benefits now. I think I'll close here, and I'll go back to Dr. Rajak to take me out of this sharing mode so that people can ask questions if they have anything.
Thank you so much, sir. It was superb lecture. And it was like we were in Antarctica. We all Antarcticans were feeling like we are there in Antarctica with you. Thank you so much, sir. Basically, we have provided the first-hand information about the India's journey to the Antarctica. You have given glimpses of Indian science that we are doing in Antarctica, applications of remote sensing for monitoring the Antarctic elements, and a number of opportunities, and obviously there are challenges related to Antarctic expedition. You have told each and everything. You have given glimpses of the National Indian South Pole expedition also. The lecture was so marvelous that we all Antarcticans were there with you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I see there are a number of questions there, and I will request Dr. C.P. Singh to take up these questions one by one, and I will request Dr. Rasik Ravindra sir to answer these queries. Dr. C.P. Singh, who is Secretary of ISG Ahmedabad chapter, kindly you start question answer session. And after this question answer session, we will be going live to Antarctica. We know that leader of Bharati station and his teammates are there. They are online with us. So, Dr. C.P. Singh, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rajak. I can see there are a couple of questions from members who have joined on GoToMeeting. First question is coming from Pankaj Dhote. Why Shirmachar Oasis was chosen for Maitri station? Were any other options available? Over to you, Ravindra.
Yes. I'll answer that question. See, first time when we reached Antarctica in January 82, 8th January 82, it was not a planned area of haltage. Our ship was going, and then we could see it was our first journey. Dr. Qasim and Dr. Vora and Dr. Siddiqui, they were all there, and they could see an opening in the ice shelf and towards the Polinia, and then they drew the ship towards that side, and they landed where the site of Dakshin Gangotri. So after landing there, they had a stay of about 15 to 20 days, if I'm not wrong, and then they established India's presence, and then they returned. The second expedition, led by Dr. Raina, V.K. Raina of Geological Survey of India, when it landed there, they had an opportunity of a station already being there. They had two containers which were made livable, to container accommodation. And since they had time, they flew to the nearby area, and they found that just about 80 to 90 kilometers away, there was a small hill range, and that was an ideal area for initiating the geological studies, and also they found the Russian station was there. Novolezerevsky station was there. So that was naturally an ideal situation because we had a neighbor, a friendly neighbor. We had a ground where a station could be constructed on an ice-free area, and which was not very far away from our station, Dakshin Gangotri. So that's how Maitri came up.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Mr. Jishad. He's asking, who is monitoring global Antarctic scientific operations? Is it permissible to construct stations anywhere?
See, there's a international body which is called a SCAR, Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research. Now that has got its headquarters in Cambridge, and they have normal elections every year. They have a president and they have a couple of vice presidents, and then there are others office bearers of there. And it is the duty of that SCAR to oversee the scientific research. Each country which is participating in Antarctic, they share their scientific programs with the SCAR. And then SCAR time and again gives the guidelines, and it also does some horizon scanning and gives the most important questions that are there in the international scenario. And then most of the countries, they follow those questions. India has been taking a leading part in this SCAR. We have had 2 vice presidents looking after the capacity building and outreach. The current director of NCPOR is one of the vice presidents of SCAR. Over.
Okay, sir. The next question is from Sivashankareshwari, being asked that how to join in Antarctic Research Station and what are the opportunities for marine biology students, and now what are the current research which are going on in Antarctica?
These questions can best be answered by NCPOR, but I can give you some hints. Every year, Antarctica's center, NCPOR, advertises in the paper their intention of conducting an expedition, and then the projects are invited. People are selected depending upon how they are presenting their reports. A shortlist is made, and then people get interviewed, they get medical test, they get psychological test, and then depending on the availability of the seats, they are chosen. But I think Javed Beg is there. He can answer this question very well because it is his domain. Can Dr. Beg take over?
Yes, sir. Javed, sir, please.
So, thank you very much. And I'll take the question what Rasik Sahab has already answered. In principle, that there is a mechanism that we invite scientific proposal for Antarctic expedition, and this happens generally in the months of March and April, and it is all peer reviewed, and after a careful selection that which are the projects selected, those people are sent to Antarctica after a rigorous medical examination and training at OLI, which is for survival in Antarctica. So that's the mechanism, and it's a every year process, except this year has been an exception because of the coronavirus pandemic, that we have curtailed some of the scientific activities, and we are only taking fewer number of people just for changeover of the winter over crew for maintenance of station. Otherwise, hopefully next year there will be an opportunity for sending scientists to Antarctica as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll go to the next question, sir. Dr. R.K. Sarangi, he's asking, in the context of your South Pole expedition, basically, that what way it is unique, and do we need station at South Pole? And then he's also having a couple of questions like, as you mentioned that nuclear capability icebreaker were used. So what are the elements used to nuclear energy and whether the safety was ensured? And the last question that he's curious about the ozone hole. What are the studies updates on the ozone hole over Antarctica? Thank you, sir.
Well, there are 3 parts of this question. I will take first part initially, and that says in the context of the South Pole expedition and its uniqueness, do we need station at the South Pole? Well, South Pole basically is a protected area. There are certain areas in Antarctic which are protected, and it is called ASPA and ASMA, Antarctic Specially Protected Areas and Antarctic Specially Managed Areas. These are 2 special designations given to the areas which are protected. Now there are certain marine areas also protected, but we are confining only to the protected areas on the continent. Now South Pole comes under a protected area domain. You can't go and construct an area in a constructed station in a protected areas unless the Antarctic Treaty finds that it is very essential for you to step in. There is already a station in South Pole, and the Scott Emerson Station, which is led by the Americans over there, they have some sort of scientific program where it is open to all. If you have a scientific program, you can just apply to the NASA and the National Science Foundation of USA, and you can go to the station. You can go to the Antarctic Station of South Pole and conduct your research. There's no need to construct another station at South Pole, because for two reasons. Once, we should avoid duplication. Secondly, it is very, very difficult to maintain a station, inland station, and that also in the South Pole. Everybody cannot do it. Americans can do it because they have a ground station in Scott, New Zealand, and it's a joint collaboration between the New Zealand government and the United States of America for catering to that station, and they are having special flights and special road convoys to cater to that station. The second was about the nuclear capability of the icebreaker. Well, Russian ships, they have some nuclear capabilities, like your nuclear submarines. So what is the specific nuclear material which is being used, I don't know. But about the nuclear ships, again, we can shift to Javed Beg, because he is looking after the chartering of the ships. I think he can answer this question in a much better way. Dr. Beg, please.
Right. Thank you very much, sir. So far, no country has used any nuclear icebreaker for going to Antarctica. This year, it is the first time, because Russians have a huge program. They are building a new station. Rather, they are revamping their old small structure, which is at the geomagnetic South Pole, the Vostok station. So they are rebuilding that station, and huge cargo and operational staff is going. So they have taken a nuclear icebreaker, which unfortunately has not reached Antarctica, and that was after the due permission from other member nations of Antarctic Treaty. So they have hired a nuclear icebreaker, and which came up to the West Africa, and then it developed a problem. The propellers were damaged, and about 15 days, until 15 days back, it was under repair. So this was the first attempt to take a nuclear icebreaker to Antarctica after getting due permission from the member nations, justifying that it is fueled by the nuclear fuel, but it has sufficient mechanism for protection and all that from radiation and all that. So that is why the permission was given. But the vessel has not yet reached. Otherwise, in earlier times, no nuclear icebreaker has gone to Antarctica. Hope I have answered the question. In case of anything else, I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Beg, your answer, and I stand corrected, because it seems I used that word because when there are two ships were going to Antarctica for the Bharati station, one was for clearing the ice. I used that word. I stand corrected, and possibly it was not a nuclear ship. And the third part of the question was about the ozone hole. Well, this year again, the ozone hole has been found to be exceeding the limits, and it is the widest in the last about 14 years. And they say it is a regular, atmospheric conditions, because in the cold conditions over the Antarctic, this ozone hole crops up. And this year, after 14 years, the size has been found to be very high. The next question is from Dr. Bhandari.
Bhandari, he's giving comments, and maybe you can answer. You can further comment on his comment that he's asking that 2 more research areas can be added in Indian expeditions, like astronomical and high energy astrophysics, as unique studies are going on already, like International Neutrino Observatory called IQ is there. So your comments on his views.
Yes, Dr. Bhandari, I forgot to mention that Indian Institute of Astrophysics has already initiated some research, in that area, and that was in 10th expedition. They did some work on the sunspot activities, and that was followed by 1 or 2 more experiments. by installing, we are in, they could observe the sunspot round the clock for more than 24 hours together. But yes, this needs to be extended, and I think there's an institute in Nainital, UP, it is based in UP, I don't remember the name, but they are taking extra scientific programs for taking sort of attacking this particular problem. But is there any program currently going on in Antarctic, especially in Indian Antarctica? I don't know. Anybody from the viewers, Dr. Thamban or Dr. Beg, if you can answer this question, I'll be delighted.
Thank you,
if
sir.
not, then
I have another thing to substantiate, because in the meantime, when the discussion started, I was slightly away because there was another meeting going on for the acquisition of the Indian polar research vessel. So I was not there, so I didn't hear the complete talk of Dr. Rasik Ravindra. And here I would like to add that Rasik Saab is partly correct, and he was correct that when we were building Bharati station, so Rasik Saab was the director and he was the pioneer for that. So at that time, we were dealing with a company which had all the nuclear icebreakers. And we were at a point of time, we were thinking of taking a nuclear icebreaker, but since we got another icebreaker, so that was taken. So in a way it was correct, but at the last moment, in the nick of the time, we could get another icebreaker, which was a normal fuel icebreaker.
Thank you, Dr. Beg. Anybody can answer that astronomical research apart from the Indian Institute of Astrophysics and the UP State Institute, which had done some work on the astronomy. I don't think this astronomical part has been taken up again. But in case SAC or some other institute has already done some work, apart from that, I'm not aware. If anybody from the participant knows that, you are most welcome to please raise your hand and speak on that issue.
Sir, you are right, as you said, that no such study has been conducted, but there were a couple of programs which were put up from time to time in different expeditions, but somehow they did not found the merit from the high level committees, so they were put on hold. There was one program put by Dr. Kurtadigar. He also wanted to have a sort of a observatory setup at Maitri, but somehow it could not succeed.
Yeah, you're right, Dr. Dhar. I think it is Dr. Ajay Dhar responding. You're right, Dr. Kurtadigar program, but there were certain logistic issues involved in those programs, so it could not be taken up. But since this particular aspect is being taken care of in the South Pole, we can take it. But it's a very logistically, it is a very high impact research problem and program. And maybe in future years, when this COVID business is solved and we have revamped our station, because currently Maitri station is also under refurbishing plans. So once we are in a position to revamp our station and refurbish it and avoid or provide more space for the laboratories, then possibly we can go on this particular aspect and particular display.
Thank you so much for elaboration.
Thank you, sir. We'll go to the next question. Actually, we have Captain Sakshi Jain, who is a pilot in civil aviation, and she's very enthusiastic about Antarctica expeditions and wants to know whether there is any opportunity for people like her.
Which way? What sort of a opportunity you want? You as a paratrooper, as a jumper, or as a flyer, we have to know what is your intention.
So, yeah, good afternoon, sir. Actually, I am interested in any sort of role, whichever I can do, and my education is actually just BCom, and but I have a commercial pilot license and experience about 5-6 years now in an airline. So and I have just skydiving also. So any sort of thing I can take.
Well, I'm excited by seeing your qualification and your adventure spirit, but unfortunately, Antarctic expeditions is basically a science-dominated projects. unless you qualify and you are able to convince the selection committee that your project is for the national interest and it can definitely lead to some sort of a societal value, it may not be okay with the committee to select you. So basically, you have to coin a good project which will have some societal value, and then convince the selectors that well you can contribute to some Antarctic in some way. That is the only way I can think of.
So I will need some guidance on that then later on, maybe whenever possible. So I will need some guidance about the project.
Please contact Director NCPOR. I think they will guide you.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Sir. Now we have only last question from Apurva A. Pimprikar. Wants to know that why is there movement of Antarctic plate different at eastern and western part of the continent? And are there any new station coming up in near future?
New stations, yes, China is building a new station, though there is a lot of opposition, but this will be the 5th station that China has already planned. That is one. The Korean new station was built a couple of years back. Apart from that, I don't think any other station has come up. And what was your other question was the differential movement of the plates. Well, this is a geotectonic question. You know, all the plates move differently, and if you go into the amalgamation of the Antarctica, you will find that the Western Antarctic and the Eastern Antarctic, they were juxtaposed together along with the Trans-Antarctic mountain belt. So it is but natural that these two positions, these two plates, these two minor plates or the subordinate plates, you know, East Antarctic is one plate and West Antarctic, actually, if you remove the entire ice from the West Antarctic area, you will be left with small isolated hillocks, disconnected. So in fact, the ice is bringing the West Antarctic together into a form of some sort of an area, and then it is getting juxtaposed with the Antarctica. So definitely these two areas, because East is a shield area and West Antarctica doesn't support the same sort of the constitution, same sort of the construction there. So definitely these two will move in different positions and different directions.
Thank you, sir. There is a related question from Derek from IIT Mandi. Could you brief about the seismic activity in Antarctica and the hazards that may occur in Antarctica due to that?
Well, so long Antarctica has not felt any serious earthquake, excepting minor 2 to 3 magnitude earthquakes, which are basically because of the breaking up of the ice shelves. Apart from that, I don't think any major earthquake has been felt in Antarctic. And there may be one more reason, because there is a huge ice column, which is at its maximum of 4 kilometers. So it must be absorbing the shocks. But I don't think there's any history of earthquakes in Antarctic. So the question of mitigation of earthquake doesn't come up. Even when there was a very big earthquake in the New Zealand, a couple of years back, I think it was about 9 to 10 years back, and it was felt that because New Zealand is one of the closest area to the Antarctica, especially the Ross area of Antarctica, so some of the establishments of Antarctica might have been affected, but it was not substantiated by any of the seismic observatory in Antarctica. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for answering all the questions. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think we should give a big round of applause to sir for his lecture. Thank you, sir. And I think over to Rajak, sir. Now we'll move to the next agenda of having live messages from.
Yes, CP. But before that, let me thank Rasik Ravindra sir, Javed sir, Ajay sir for answering all the questions so nicely. And I thank you, Dr. CP Singh, that the whole question answer session was so lively, and it was really a very nice question answer session. Now you can kindly go ahead with a live interaction with the participants who are directly joining us from Antarctica, Bharati, and you have got a message from Maitri also, so I will go ahead with this. So Dr. C.P. Singh, again please.
Maitri is having poor internet connectivity, so what we have done, we have got masses from Mr. Deepak Gajabia, who is a station leader. I'll just read out his message. He says that respected dignitaries, former Antarctic expedition leaders and members, and my dear friends. First of all, on behalf of all the members of 39 IC at Matri, I wish everyone a very happy Antarctica Day. For India in Antarctica, it has been a long way since the times of Dr. Paramjit Singh Sehra, who was the first Indian to set foot on this land as part of the 17th Soviet Antarctic program, way back in 1972 to the current 39th Indian scientific expedition to Antarctica. The program has evolved into a top-notch scientific research body with brave, adventurous, and inquisitive minds, which is contributing significantly to the world scientific data pool. In my short message, I do not wish to undertake the scientific research in Antarctica to the learned crowd, but rather highlight the hidden messages for the humanity in general. Nowhere in the history of mankind have we found where states have given up their claims of territory with a null resistance for the purpose of science. I consider this icy continent to a world without boundaries, where every country lives in harmony and brotherhood, with eagerness to help one another. Not only the relations between different countries, but even between people from a country as diverse as India live here without any difference of social, economic, or regional milieu. Dignity of labor is the important quality which our countrymen learn here as a part of the team. Being here, we have learned to respect the environment by minimizing the human footprint to a greater possible extent, but feel guilty for the minimal ones which are left behind. For many, the long dark winters have guided towards the light within. The vast plains, bone-stabbing cold, and blizzards have made us humbler than ever. Though it is not pragmatic to expect an extrapolation of this elsewhere, the leaves taken from this book can still teach lessons to mankind. It really does test your physical and psychological endurance to spend a winter here, but you never know what you are capable of unless you try. Thanks to the Antarctic Treaty drafted on this day in 1959, it has given me, my team members, an opportunity to work in this mystic place. Let's pledge to live in harmony with Mother Nature so that ultimately we can keep this beautiful continent intact. Finally, I thank the conglomeration of all institutions who have organized this event for giving me the opportunity, and I wish them a grand success. Deepak Gajabia. Thank you, Deepak, for your nice message. Now we will go to Bharati live. I think Dr. Devdeep Chakravarti is online. Over to you, sir. We want to listen to you. Bharati station.
Whether I'm audible to everybody?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yes.
Okay. So
yes, sir.
First of all, I congratulate the organization team which has led this event. We are celebrating Antarctica Day, and it feels really fortunate enough to be in Antarctica on this day, particularly. So this is an occasion, this is a very solemn occasion rather for us, that we dedicate ourselves to the 1959 Antarctic Treaty, which was signed on this day. We are
Not getting any audio.
Yeah.
CP Singh, it seems that there is some internet problem at Bharati.
I'm trying to contact through WhatsApp, but that is also message is not going to them.
Not working.
Dr. Devdeep, can you hear us?
Okay, Dr. CP Singh, we will do one thing. Once we are connected through Bharati, we will again do it. Let us move ahead with our program.
hello.
Hello.
Am I audible, sir? I'm
Yeah. Now you are audible. Yeah. Please go ahead.
So this is an occasion, as I wanted to continue, that this is an occasion in which we for the cause of science in this part of the world, since signing of the famed Antarctic Treaty in 1959, we have been following the tenets that have been laid there, and according to that, our scientific expedition is also going on year by year, and we are stepping on to the 40th year of the expedition now on. So this is also an occasion to say our thankfulness, our gratitude to the likes of
Again, not audible.
Yes, again, the signal has gone.
We know that there is a problem always whenever we try to contact Antarctica, that may happen. Hello.
Our scientists do visit this part. There are organizations which are continuing their scientific part in the winter part also. So that is the message, and this is the only continent, thanks to the rest of the world, that this is the only continent that is still free from the scourge of COVID. That is a very important part, and humanity is all set to leave this part of the world, this part of the earth free from this dreaded virus. So this is a very solemn occasion. Let us again rededicate ourselves for the cause of science, and as you know that the pristineness of Antarctica is very essential for the rest of the humanity, we do commit ourselves to this pledge once more. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. All the Antarcticans, you are there at Bharati. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, friends, as far as the culture of all the three societies is concerned, we always respect our speakers and we always felicitate them by offering some token of appreciation. However, due to this COVID-19 pandemic situation, we are forced to do our webinars and we cannot felicitate our guests physically. So now let us say a big thank you to our speaker, Dr. Rasik Ravindra, and do virtual felicitation by presenting a GSLV model and a memento to Dr. Rasik Ravindra on behalf of all the three societies.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it and I welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rasik Ravindra sir. Thank you so much again and again. Now I request all the participants to switch on their cameras for taking screenshots. Kindly switch on your camera. You may keep switch on maybe for some 60 seconds. Please, I request Dr. C.P. Singh to take screenshots.
I can see Dr. Raghava, and I forgot to take his name. Dr. Raghava, my compliments to you.
Thank you, Dr. Rasik Ravindra. Thanks a lot. Wonderful talk. Nice seeing many of my friends here.
Dr. Sandeep, Dr. Sandeep, nice to see you.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Dr. Rajawat, I can see many top scientists here. Dr. Rajawat, Michelle, Prakash, Dr. Sajan. Thank you for showing us your face.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Many people are still switching on their cameras. Still, there are many people.
Yes.
Kindly, everyone, switch on your camera. Dr. CP Singh, is it okay?
I've taken the screenshots.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So now we come to end of this very enriching lecture given by Dr. Rasik Ravindra. Now I request Dr. Abhishek Chakrabarti, who is Secretary of IMSA, to present a formal vote of thanks. Dr. Abhishek, please.
Thank you, Rajak sir. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. It is my privilege to propose the formal vote of thanks on behalf of Ahmedabad chapters of the three societies, namely ISRS, ISG, and IMSA. First of all, I express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Rasik Ravindra sir.
Abhishek, you are not audible. It seems there is some internet problem at his end. CP Singh? Okay. So can you please propose vote of thanks, please?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, first of all, at the outset, it's my privilege to vote of thanks since Abhishek is not able to connect. I would like to thank Dr. Rasik Ravindra for accepting our invitation and delivered his talk today for this large audience. And then I'm also thankful to ISG Ahmedabad chapter chairman and ISRS Ahmedabad chapter chairman, INSA chairman, and all those who has helped us in organizing this event, especially Dr. Rajak, who has been instrumental in organizing this particular event, Dr. Abhishek for helping us in taking care of many other logistic things related to this event. I'm thankful to treasurers of all the societies, and I'm really thankful to Bharati station leader who could join today, and station leader Matri who could send his message and bless the occasion, grace the occasion. I'm very thankful to see many of our seniors like Javed Beg sir, Salen Sani sir, and Ajadhar sir, who has graced the occasion today. I'm really thankful to Bauguna sir for participating in this program, Karthikeyan sir, and Sandeep Oja sir, and Vice Chairperson of ISG-AC, Alpana Shukla ji, for joining today's program. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining.
And Manish Parmar has also helped us, so I thank him also. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naveen Tripathi, for arranging YouTube webcast. Thank you.
Thank you all. It's a fantastic talk and a
Thank
fantastic
you.
event.
Yeah. Happy to see the faces. Yeah. Ajay Dhar sir and Pradeep Malhotra sir, after quite a long time.
Hello, Ajay. How are you?
All good, sir. All good. Nice to see so many known faces today.
Yeah. Dr. Pradeep, hello. Okay, bye.